The next one is being consistent at executing on the main goal. Now, why do I say consistent at executing is very important? Because we can get busy, but it doesn't always mean that we're going to be productive. And we should have the mentality that we're going to be consistent at the productive task, executing the productive tasks, right? So for example, I'll do this in sales because this happens with anyone in any sales department, right? If I'm in sales, I can get caught up with day-to-day emails. I can get caught up with just working on the files that we have at hand, right? But what brings me the overall goal in the future is sourcing and following up, right? So I could get very busy because maybe I don't like to source. I could get very busy on other things. And at the end of the week, I feel like I did a lot. But when I look back and I'm like, wait a minute, I lack consistency in the one thing that could have made the difference in my income. So then 2 months go by, and what happens is you're sitting here looking at yourself going, why aren't my numbers reflecting that? Why? I mean, I love this company. I love the goal. I'm dedicated to the team. I mean, I brought her a cup of water. Why am I not producing? And that's because what happens is you're not being consistent at executing on the main goal. The main thing that moves the needle forward is what you need to be consistent at executing. So a follow-up is a part of your goal. Consistently execute. If somebody in your team is pulling you back from it, say, listen, during this time, I'm going to go in this corner over here and I'm going to call because that's my goal. And you share that goal with your team so they can support you during that time. Does that make sense? So it's about being consistent about what matters. The other piece is this. People that are fully committed take full ownership towards the main goal. It is not Rick's goal to produce $3-4 million a month in capital deployment. It's not Rick's goal. It's my goal. This is mine. Because if I do this, if I help get to this, I'm going to grow. It's going to make an impact in my finances. I'm going to help the company move forward. I'm going to bring stability. I'm going to bring opportunity. It's my $4 million goal. What can I do to contribute towards the goal? Right? And here's the other side of that too. When I have full ownership and I fail or I make a mistake, I take full responsibility of that failure instead of blaming somebody else. Because if not, here's what happens. Well, really, that wasn't my responsibility. That's her job, her duty and responsibility. And I find a way to blame you. Or technically, I thought that was Karina's role, right? I mean, I just do this. And, so then my question will be, did you talk to her about it? Did you deal with it with her? Oh, you didn't? So you didn't take ownership of your responsibility. Does that make sense? So it's imperative that if you want to be committed, these actions will literally reflect, they produce a fruit. And taking full ownership of your failures, as well as taking full ownership of the goal, the drive that we're doing, is what shifts it so it becomes personal. And when it becomes personal, you're going to do a lot more to achieve that goal. Does that make sense? Just want to make sure everybody follows. And lastly, of these components, we have that the person with commitment is going to be proactively help the rest of the team members to achieve their goals. So you show your dedication, but you're proactive. It's the same form. If you guys remember one of the trainings that I did not too long ago where I helped build that dock. Well, I'll be honest with you, it's not my thing. I don't know how to do it. I'm not skilled when it comes to that. But I knew that if I could at least help pick up the wood, grab the stuff they needed, they could do their thing, which is what was important, because you're not building a dock with me, right? And so little by little, as I started learning what had to take place, I went from doing like the hard work, right, the hard labor work, to then saying, okay, so they need about 5 screws every time they put this little mount together. Okay, so while they're screwing the mount over here, I'm grabbing screws, bringing it to them. Here's the mount. So now they don't even have to turn. By the time they turn, they've got the screw to finish the job. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's being proactive about it. So if we know, hey, guess what? When we start selling, this happens, Karina is going to take ownership and say, hey, guys, why don't we have a meeting every day for 5 minutes and let's take a look at the files. Let's look at what's really important, what's not, so that we can hit the goal, but without wasting a bunch of time. Right? And then processing can say, hey, Karina, let's take a look at these files for 5 minutes and let's get on the same page. So every day we're working on priority. So we're knocking out the deals that we know are going to happen. And the ones with headaches, let's put a plan to follow up after that. Does that make sense? Yeah. That's the difference of being proactive, right? So if you want to see this company go to the next level, if you want your personal walk to go to the next level, the very first thing you're going to have to do, guys, is commit. You have to make that decision to ignite momentum by first committing. And if you guys are willing to commit, then the rest of the series is going to help us to really step into the next level. And I'm telling you guys, it is so much more rewarding when you're with a group of people that have your back, that are fully committed to the same cause, that you're pushing forward together. There's nothing more fulfilling than being in community and committed to one another in success. That's the reason why, if you sit down, and I'll end it with this, looping back to the military guys that I started with. That's the reason why, if you're standing next to a Navy SEAL or those guys, Marines, I mean, Marines are a perfect example. So it's not just a SEAL. If you see a Marine and you can look at Alberto and another Marine comes in and they're like, hey, brother, like, I've never even seen you. I don't even know your name. I don't know that you have 8 kids. It doesn't matter. You're my brother. We're committed because we served under the same commitment. And Alberto will tell you, they will have each other's back to the death. Why? Because they're fully committed to one another. I was talking to this guy on the Special Forces, and I made a comment about some of his comrades because he said some of them just passed away in the last trip was pretty brutal. I think like 6 or 7 of their 15 guys were gone. So he was hurting, as you can imagine. But when I would say, so what about the guys that made it? I mean, you should just see his eyes. He was just like, my brothers. I mean, it was this incredible look of like almost blood. You know what I mean? Like as close as you're going to get to blood. Yeah. It was like his eyes lit up when we talked about the brothers that were there that are being successful at what they do. And so we got to get to that point where we're so committed to one another towards the vision that we weep when you hurt. Mm-hmm. We smile when you're smiling and you're enjoying it, and we're working together to make it better. And it's amazing. It changes. You want to come to work when somebody's committed to you because you don't want to let them down, and that creates a bond. So I want to challenge the city, of course. Yeah, that's pause the recording. Anyway, so what I want to challenge you is this: which one of these 2 actions reflect you right now? Are you the person whose actions reflect a full commitment to the organization, to your team, to yourself, or are they the negative? Do you have a negative attitude? Do you lack dedication? Are you inconsistent at executing what's important? Do you blame others when you're missing the goal? And do you only get engaged when people push you to be engaged? What is the fruit that you're producing right now? Because it's going to show us whether you're interested or whether you're committed. And so for the next time, we're going to talk about one of the key pieces of momentum, which is teamwork.